and the order is...
Oh, we're live.
Oh, hey. Hi.
Hey, it's cool. I mean, honestly, it's like we're still waiting for people to show up so we can talk about all the other fun, cool things that we've got.
Yeah. So we'll see if I actually got it, because someone else in the group said they got it.
Hey, that's exciting.
So
yeah, it's been a fun week for pre-orders finally shipping. Gentle Giant's like, hey, we heard you ordered Zeb a year and a half ago. Here he is. And then 2 days later, they're like, oh, by the way, here's Ezra.
So how does he look?
Oh, Ezra ships. He hasn't shipped yet, so we're gonna get him soon. Hey, John. I know.
It got scary. Hi, John. How's it going?
Hey, friends. Welcome. It's Wednesday.
I'm telling you. Hi, Jen. That prototype, honestly. I knew. I'm like, cancel this order. It was so scary. So scary.
Hey, y'all. So we are very excited. We're excited for our show, of course. We're excited that you guys are here. We can't wait to start talking. And Ashley's back. She's not Mark this week. Mark's not Ashley, as the case may be. So we're really excited that she's here. We're gonna have a good time.
It's exciting.
Waiting for everybody else to kind of join in. We're really excited because this has been the week for not just all this Ahsoka stuff, but oh my gosh, pre-orders and things that we've ordered years ago are finally starting to ship. So we're all excited about that. Yeah, I know. It's been, let me tell you, I, for a long time, thought that Zeb bus was just a fiction of my imagination.
But it looks so good. On the box, at least, it looks so good.
No,
so I'm excited for you. I kind of want him. So, not gonna lie. Now, it's animated bust, right?
It's the same, animated. It's the same style as, Hera and the Kanan one that they did, and as we're looking in two directions.
Sorry, it's so bad.
Sabine with the removable head.
I have that one too.
Yeah. It's good stuff. All See? Right. I'm telling you. All the 330-second helmets are coming.
Yeah, Popper. That whole order was about to be sent.
My Legos are going to ship in another 2 weeks. We got a lot going on. There's we're going to have to do a whole unboxing. Listen, I'm not going to lie. In honor of Ahsoka Week, I literally thought about unboxing it during the show.
Yes, Queen, you finally got it.
Yeah, it was. Yep,
it's Ahsoka
they're
show.
Here.
Ahsoka's here.
And it's all Ahsoka all the time. So we have the Ahsoka cat, we have the Ahsoka sabers. We got a lot going on. So
I'm glad you finally got those. 30% off is a magical deal.
All right. So welcome to Daughters of the Galaxy, episode 6. It is Wednesday, August 16th, and we are here to talk about, who else? Ahsoka Tano, because we are a whole gosh darn week away from this new show that's happening, which I don't know, part of me doesn't feel real because of everything going on with the strikes and how we haven't gotten to see a lot of real promotion for it except for Star Wars and Lucasfilm every day dropping all these new trailers every single day.
Oh my god, I've been trying to avoid them, but that Anakin one just whoa.
I'm a little worried about it, to be honest, and it's going to be a weird show for me personally, and I'm certainly not here to tell anybody how to live their life, but obviously in solidarity with these strikes, talking about the show, promoting a struck work is a little bit of a strange thing. So I'm, we're gonna focus on sort of what got us to this point, I suppose, rather than talking too much about the show. I will say, in light of the strike, we haven't seen any promotion from Rosario or any of the actors in it, of course. But yeah, I'm worried because they keep dropping all these trailers, and oh my god, I feel like they're gonna just drop the entire show at this point. There's nothing is hidden anymore.
Hi Juan. Yeah, honestly, I'm psyched enough. You don't have to give me the whole first 2 episodes. Just psych me up enough. Yeah. I've been psyched since, May 2022. I'm pretty good.
Yeah. Well, and it's also been sort of a weird week, in talking about how serendipitous things are, right? So yesterday was the 15th anniversary of the Clone Wars.
Woo!
So 15 years ago, we met Ahsoka Tano for the first time.
And Stinky Punky Muffin.
And Stinky. I know, it won't be a Daughters of the Galaxy show, I guess, if we don't talk about Stinky.
We have to, yeah. This is the way.
This is the way. So we had our 15th anniversary for the Clone Wars yesterday. And then, we kind of got that weird follow-up news that Disney and Lucasfilm and Star Wars had shut down the the animation studio in Singapore,
awful.
which is, you know, where the Clone Wars was animated. So it's been like a weird, like up and down,
highs and lows,
kind of week for Clone Wars fans and for Ahsoka fans. You know, the industry is changing so quickly, and there's so much going on at Disney with how, you know, shows are being produced and things now, and you know, they cited just a changing industry was the reason they closed the studio. So we'll see, but it was kind of a sad thing.
I hope not, Juan. I really hope not. The creative process needs to survive and thrive, because without art, we have nothing.
It's true. And, you know, we are a species that thrives on stories. And I talk about that a lot. And I know I get made fun of a lot for my, the way I consume books, the way I like absorb books and make them my whole personality.
How dare.
But gosh, it's like, you know, we're just a species that needs stories. And I think when you're an artist, especially whether it's visual or, you know, whatever, you rely on those stories all the more. So, again, you know, I think the strike is due, and I think everybody has a right to their own face. Nobody should have their face reproduced over and over and over again by AI.
Yeah.
Pay your writers, pay your actors, and
pay your artists.
Pay your artists. Always pay your artists, and tip your bartenders. Gosh darn it. Yeah. So Ahsoka.
Ahsoka Tano, we are talking about this week, obviously being our last show before the premiere of Ahsoka on August 23rd. She has had honestly, a hate-love relationship with the fans over the last 15 years. I'm not even saying love-hate. I'm saying hate-love.
Hate-love. No, you're totally right.
It's just gone crazy. Like, shirts like this were never even imagined 15 years ago. Shirts like yours. Like,
yeah.
And so we'll just start with that. We'll start with the premiere of Ahsoka.
And I think we can't start telling the Ahsoka story, I think, without talking about Ashley Eckstein. Right.
Queen.
So she's a queen for so many reasons. But I thought it was also just interestingly timed because, you know, with everything going on, Ashley posted, you know, she always does her mental health Mondays. So Monday she'll take to Instagram and she'll post something around supporting your mental health, whatever that may be. And last week, I think it was either last week or the week before, she talked about the story of Ahsoka and how it was last week, right? And how initially when the Clone Wars aired, Ahsoka was absolutely loathed. I mean, she was dragged, absolutely dragged.
Them fanboys were mean.
So awful.
Mean.
And Ashley had just poured her entire heart and soul into this character. And I think early on even saw it as an opportunity for a renaissance for women in Star Wars. And to sit back and read those things about Ahsoka. And she talked about how she cried into her cheesecake. And that was her thing, is she would lock herself in her hotel room or lock herself in a room at home. And she would just cry about how reviled Ahsoka was at the very beginning. And, you know, fast forward 15 years and here we are with her own spinoff and seeing her come in time and time again throughout the story and seeing her just become this beacon for so many, especially female fans, I think is really important. So I think if you love Ahsoka Tano, you also have to understand how much you love Ashley Eckstein. So that's, you know, I think we have to give her the shout out first and to recognize that without Ashley, we don't have Ahsoka.
Exactly.
Without Ahsoka, we don't have Ashley. Well, no, we would, because Ashley had an incredible career before Ahsoka.
Yeah. With her, she kind of came like a steward and a protector of the character. And most importantly, I think she was kind of like the first to market geeky Star Wars stuff like this to women and say, okay, I'll go to the store and I'll find like 1 million Star Wars t-shirts for guys, but not a single one geared towards girls. And it doesn't have to be pink. It just has to be comfortable and represent the character in a way that we would be happy for it. I know that with my interactions with Ashley, especially over the last 5 years, have been incredibly pleasant. She's a wonderful human being. The fact that she can remember so many people is like, incredible. And my personal story, telling a lot about Ashley is I did a Ahsoka sketch cover on a Kanan blank that I was planning to sell at Celebration Chicago, and somebody, my ex had put it on his Facebook and said that I was going to have it for sale. One of his followers wanted it for his daughter who was young, and she wanted Ashley's autograph, but it had sold out. So this is kind of like a consolation prize. And while we were setting up at Celebration Chicago, Ashley was at the Hallmark booth signing the little pixelated Ahsoka pins that she was going to be selling there. And we knew the creative license director at Hallmark, so I went over there and I was hanging out with her, and I told Ashley about the sketch cover and who it was going to, and she's like, "Would you like me to sign it?" And I'm like, "Oh my god!" Like, she would freak out. So the little girl that got it was 6 years old. Her name is Hadley, and her dad Mike bought it for her, and it was to see her face light up like a Christmas tree when she had like this official signed piece from Ashley. And the fact that Ashley didn't have to do that at all, and she did, was like huge, absolutely huge. So it's a testament to her kindness, testimony of her generosity.
Absolutely,
wonderful human being.
She's local to where I am, and she's in the parks all the time, both in an official capacity and then just as a guest. And I volunteer down here with the Star Wars Galaxy's Edge Discord lightsaber event. So we actually have our next event coming up on the 26th. And listen, we don't ever know when she's going to show up. It's truly a surprise when she's going to show up. We'll turn around and be like, "Oh, Ashley's there." For the Ahsoka Tano Day celebration, it had to have been earlier this year. We, the team kind of knew that she was coming. She had made it clear. And our Saber events always have a really great turnout for photos and everything. But we expected a certain number, and that number quadrupled.
Oh my gosh.
And Ashley spent all of that time, we actually had to pry her away at one point to be like, we got to go. The park is literally closed for like 2 hours. We got to go. We got to get out of here. But she is so in tune with her fans and just the most gracious human being. And I've known her for years. I think I first met her when her universe launched. And I remember trying on the old Bespin dress before that came out. Ooh. And the original lightsaber skirt that everybody went bonkers for.
Oh my God. I love that.
And then working Star Wars weekends at Hollywood Studios and managing crowd control for her line. So I've known her and interacted with her for years. But getting to introduce her to Sabine, my daughter, was the most surreal thing because she's known me all these years. And it's just seeing her face kind of light up in the most genuine way. It was so strange because you never expect that of somebody, a voice actor or a celebrity in the Star Wars universe, right? But she's one of those people where you might only see her like once a year, once every couple of years, but like she just feels like somebody you've known forever and a friend forever. And she's just genuinely that kind and genuinely that sincere and that real. So just the most incredible human being who deserves every success coming to her. And knowing that she is such a positive force for good and for light and for change. She definitely embodies Ahsoka. Like she is 100% embodies Ahsoka. We do have, there is a Batu West lightsaber meetup coming up. I see somebody is talking about being on the West Coast. I don't know I can't speak too much of who shows up where, but I think we're just blessed because Ashley is on our East Coast, so it's easy for her to sort of show up. Sarah, our fandom is definitely lucky to have. We're definitely lucky to have Ahsoka. See, there it is. We're definitely lucky to have Ashley Eckstein for sure. So she's lovely. We love her. Ashley, you're a gem. We adore you. We should probably talk about Ahsoka.
Yeah. So without further ado.
So yeah, she's another character where like we got her. She was 14. Those first couple episodes of the Clone Wars when she first gets assigned to Anakin Skywalker, of course, is a Padawan, and Anakin's like, "I did not ask for this. Like, I did not want this." We get her through so much of her life, but then with all of the new content that's coming out, we actually get her at the very beginning of her life too. So seeing her, I guess if we're going to go in chronological order of her life, I mean, her first like appearance in the timeline is Tales of the Jedi. Yeah. We got the little snippet
of
short
how it appears to be rare that a child is born on Chill. So her birth is heralded as a big deal, and the fact that she turned out to be Jedi was kind of like a solemn event. Like they were just like, "Whoa!" Like we're gonna lose our only child in quite some time to the Jedi now. So it was kind of bittersweet. But it's cool to see her bonding with the kitty.
Yeah.
Well, for the cats,
I mean, the wild thing about watching that short is that you're like, all right, well, nothing's clearly going to happen to her. Like, there's no way that this giant space cat's just going to, like, chomp her down or anything. Because, like, we get her for the rest of her life, right?
Yeah.
But, it was pretty incredible to see, we see a lot of interpretations of, like, younglings and Force-sensitive children throughout Star Wars. But seeing her have that, like, immediate bond to animals was really neat, and it kind of brings us to, like, a full circle moment in Rebels, of her interacting with the Loth wolves and the cats and all that fun stuff. So it's kind of a neat, like, full circle moment, I guess.
And also Morai, like that connection with Morai as well, which is, we already see she has that bond with animals when she's a child, but to her to go through what she went through on Mortis, next step in her
her we're
life.
Definitely jumping around a little bit, but no, for sure, it's definitely I thought that was a really well done short. I really enjoyed that short. It's I always love seeing those sort of introductions, especially because we see other very well established Jedi who are Togruta. We see like a Shakti, and if you go, Jamie can't make it an episode without talking about the High Republic, but if we go to the High Republic,
keep doing that.
there's another Togruta Jedi who is incredibly well established and incredibly well respected. So it's nice to kind of see them from that that very young stage and seeing their interactions with the Force, and even their beliefs with the Force, because so many of these species have a very different interpretation of whether or not the Force is good or bad. So
and we don't see how the family takes it after that, and whether they think of it as a blessing or a curse or what have you.
Plo Koon just kicks down the door and says, "I'll be taking this. Thank you so much."
Plo Koon, and that's something that Dave Filoni kind of continues with this, kind of like with Avatar Korra. I'm the Avatar. You gotta deal with it. And the Water Tribe showing up at her house, and
like yoink,
take it away. But so Plo Koon comes to get her in 39 BBY on Chill. And they kind of have, from what I can tell, an interesting little bond between them. Like she's very close to him. I think that's really cool. That's probably why Dave loves him so much too.
Probably. I mean, it checks out. So Plo Koon brings her off to the temple, and then the next time we really see her is again the beginning of the Clone Wars, where she's this sort of very enthusiastic, very impulsive, very Anakin Skywalker-like Padawan.
Let's stick her with Anakin Skywalker anyway. It's totally fine.
Listen, and that was the day that Obi-Wan Kenobi took a lot of Tylenol for the rest of his life.
That's why all that gray grew in on his sideburns just instantly, and he just kept going.
Like
hair club for Jedi.
Damn, like Obi-Wan Kenobi really aged, and it's like, well, here's why.
It's not Tatooine, it's those two.
Yeah, listen, the desert ain't got nothing on having to deal with those two. And listen, so the Clone Wars, I know that there's a lot of criticism for the Clone Wars, and honestly, I was kind of firmly in this camp for a long time, despite the fact that I've fully come around on it and really enjoy it. But like the Clone Wars, if you are a military-minded person or you're somebody who really loves those battles, it's such a great show for you, because there is so much incredible representation of like warfare in a lot of ways in the Clone Wars. It took a long time for me to come around on that. So watching and even preparing for this show and being like, I cannot remember every single one of these arcs and these battles.
That is one thing that
most of them.
That Dave stayed true to with this whole thing when he agreed to do this series with George. George is very like The Art of War. Sun Tzu wrote all his books all his films based on like the battles and the art of The Art of War. Like there's a discipline, there's loss, there's also you give people their lives back by fighting for them. And it's just, Dave continues that with the Clone Wars, and I get it. There's a lot of battles, and if you're not a military-minded person, go into it like I did, and just be like, okay, I want to see the outcome of this, because I know it's either going to be a detriment to somebody or it's going to be help somebody in a positive way. So I go for what the end result is of things, and when you think they're fighting an endless battle, you just look for the strategy and the growth of the characters that are involved in it.
Well, that's such an interesting way to put it, because for me, like, my through line for the Clone Wars, and I think it probably was for a lot of people, I know a lot of people will get very focused on like the clones and knowing all the battalions, and others will get very focused on the Jedi. And for me, we knew sort of the outcome for a lot of those Jedi, right? Like, obviously we knew about Order 66 by the time that the Clone Wars started airing, but and we knew like where somebody like an Obi-Wan Kenobi would end up, and we knew where an Anakin Skywalker would end up, but we didn't really know what was going to happen to Ahsoka.
Yeah.
So following her story, both the high highs and the low lows, was kind of the through point for me, because, as it was airing, like, we didn't know. I mean, for all we knew, she could have bit it in season 2, and that could have been the end of it, because we didn't know if or when we would next see Ahsoka. So for me, when the episodes started feeling really long, or the arc started feeling really long, it was like, all right, where is she going to appear next? Like, what is her next move? What is Ahsoka's next appearance? Because that's kind of what's helping the story progress for me.
Yes.
And
you're not the first person I know that has said that. So
yeah,
she's been a great focal point through the chaos and the death and destruction and the plots and the schemes.
And also the growth, I think, for her too. We see her, again, going back to the very beginning, as super impulsive. I mean, she like loses a whole squadron full of like clones. She is really not battle-minded in the very beginning. And then if we fast forward all the way to the end of season 7, she kind of gets that like full circle moment again, where we go from having lost an entire squadron of clones to now she is, the commander or the general of her own battalion, the 332nd. So it's it's a full circle moment for her, starting from I killed them all to, I mean, they're all gonna die, but at least I'm in charge of them.
They get nice little graves.
I mean, if you can't laugh, right?
Oh.
That was a tough season.
Yeah, it really was. Those last 4 episodes, man. Oof.
Yeah.
Brutal.
So we're gonna skip through. I think we're gonna skip through a lot of the Clone Wars, just because there is so much content to cover. But I don't think we can get through an Ahsoka show without talking about the Mortis arc.
Yeah, definitely. That was something that, along with the World Between Worlds, delved into the mystical side of the Force, the light side, the dark side, and the gray area with the Father. And also, it's just how deeply the reflections were for those characters, because you have this light and dark pulling at Anakin, both sides, and it cost him his Padawan ultimately. And it's, what can he do to fix that? But also the loss of the daughter, who's considered the light side of the Force, that you kind of need a representation of that in some form in order for the light side to still exist. And that becomes Ahsoka.
Yeah. I agree wholeheartedly. And somebody in the chat just said, oh, I love the Mortis arc, all the unexplained mystical stuff. Listen, that is what I'm here for. I love the mysticism. Because, there's so much, oh, hey girl, hang on. It took me a second to realize what was going on until I saw your picture. I was like, what's going on? It's 2 a.m. Why aren't you sleeping, ma'am? She's tuning in from England.
From girl, your costume is stunning. Girl. Now go to sleep.
No, just kidding. Stay.
No, we love having you here. Please stay.
But no, the Force mysticism stuff, I think is done so well. That Mortis arc is so beautiful, and Ahsoka bites it at like 16, which is kind of, I feel like it's definitely a foretelling thing that it just keeps happening to her. But yeah, to your point again, we see it interpreted again with like more of that like Bendu kind of coming in, and then the World Between Worlds, and like there's just so much. And there's a part of me that's like, yes, go on, tell me more. And there's a part of me that's like, okay, I'm a little bit concerned by how undefined this is, because now I'm like, where is this going to come back in the story? I guess we'll get to that when we talk about Rebels. I don't know what's going on with the World Between Worlds and Ahsoka.
Yeah, I mean, if they do, awesome. If they don't, also awesome, because again, that was a place that was kind of the Sith and the Emperor found out about it, and it needs to be protected and stay out of sight.
So this idea of Mortis and the idea of the World Between Worlds is an interesting one, because up until this point in the Clone Wars, we kind of just know like light side of the Force, dark side of the Force. Like we know, like when people think about the Force, they're like Luke Skywalker or Darth Vader. Like which one is it going to be? It's such a big, messy concept with so many ramifications that can get really sticky in storytelling, because what's the cutoff, you know? So like we pulled Ahsoka out of the World Between Worlds to save her, spoiler alert. But then we didn't do it for other characters. Like why? So it gets messy with like where's the line? Like how are we?
Maybe it's based on a personal level. Like you just can't or you can't go into the World Between Worlds and just start yanking people out willy-nilly. You change history, you change the course.
It's a butterfly effect,
exactly.
You know, and
with Ahsoka, there was so much of a gray area when she was fighting Vader on Malachor, and it was like, okay, Morai knew it had to be done. That's why she was there to guide Ezra to do it. However, there was no Morai, or there was Sith symbols in front of where Kanan was, and it was just like the temptation of the dark side. And Ahsoka was the representation of the light to be like, no, if you do that, you all die. All of you. And Kanan's sacrifice isn't in vain, completely in vain, and you lose Lothal. So...
And this is definitely an era of explaining and exploring a lot of those things in Star Wars media across the board. And I think Ahsoka was sort of like the test the waters, like with the Mortis arc especially. It's like, all right, so we're creating this new folklore around the Father. I always want to say the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. I'm Jewish, so that should tell you everything you need.
Thanks, religious upbringings.
I'm Jewish, that's not
and also with you. I fight the urge of that all the time.
Anyway. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. No, the Son, the Daughter, and the Father. Oh my God. Oh, it's gonna be a fun show, y'all.
We're only halfway through.
I remember where we were going with this. Oh, just went right off the deep end there. But no, we're exploring and we're writing all of this mythology happening in real time. And we're seeing it in all these books. Jamie, don't say the High Republic. The High Republic is exploring a lot of what the Force really means and who is controlling of the Force.
Exciting.
We're seeing it in the Clone Wars. We see it in the World Between Worlds.
I think we'll see it in the Acolyte.
Oh, girl, we're going to see it in the Acolyte. It's it is definitely an interesting time to get that lore.
Yeah.
And the Mandalorian. What is a Mando? I mean, that depends on who you ask and what it is. Like the Holy Trinity of Star Wars. You're not wrong.
Yes, Sherry. Yes. May the Force be with you and also with you.
Yeah.
But that's really cool. I mean, maybe like it's more than just lightsaber battles. It's more than just pew pew blasters. There's ethics and a belief system in place for this. And like as Han Solo said, all that, Jedi and light side, dark side stuff, I didn't believe any of that, but it's all true. And I think
we even saw it in Rogue One.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw it quite a bit in Rogue One with brain, do the thing. You had such a great point and it just went right off the deep end again.
The Guardians of the Whills.
Thank you. There we go. The Guardians of the Whills.
Chirrut and Baze, my boys. I love them.
Sis didn't sleep last night, so it's like I said, it's gonna be an interesting show.
Fighting the cold, you guys. My giant record mug is way over there, filled with my tea. But
yeah. So lots. Again, I do think Ahsoka was during the Clone Wars. It's like, all right, well, let's see how people respond to this, and if they respond positively, let's see if we explore it some more. And if they don't, we can always say, well, that was the Mortis arc, ladies and gentlemen, and then just move on to the next big thing. So we see Ahsoka get resurrected. Good for her. Love that for you, sis.
Through Anakin, which is really wild to me, because wild to think that someone who's like half light side, half dark side,
Mm.
is a conduit to saving someone's life and being the light side, getting the light side force back into his Padawan. I
Wild
honestly
how
like.
it kind of makes you think about Vader, huh?
Uh-huh.
um, yeah, for sure. I totally agree. And for me, the Mortis arc was I'm gonna yeah, I'll say it. I'll commit to it. It was my favorite part of the Clone Wars. Um,
Yeah, I
it was
agree.
my favorite part of the
It
Clone
was it
Wars
was
because there
probably
were
to me the most interesting, like you said,
Mhm.
because the mysticism and like the lore of things kind of draw me into things, and um, it was probably one of the more inventive parts of Star Wars that didn't feel stale or done before. So yeah,
I think there was also a lot of if we think about like growth and how I mentioned earlier about like using Ahsoka as a character who I mean helped keep the story moving for me because I just wanted to see how her growth was.
yeah.
I'm gonna jump all the way up ahead to the temple bombing.
Yeah, we need to go there. We're gonna move along to that, but yeah, we have to. That was probably one of the most like when I finally got around to watching Clone Wars during the pandemic, because I watched Rebels first because that's
Yeah.
what I do. Um, I was like, ah, ah, and it just got worse like the entire episode, and I was just so angry. But please,
So I this is a really loaded subject, and we have been kicking around the idea of doing a show. We probably are. I think it's supposed to be our next show of doing a show about Luminara and Barriss. Um, I'm gonna go out and just say I hated with every fiber of my being the way my whole body cringes thinking about this that they used a Muslim coded character to be a temple bomber.
right? That was a dark time.
I hate that. I hate it with everything. And I love Luminara and I love Barriss. And every episode that they were in leading up to the temple bombing, I'm like, oh my God, I want to see more of these two. Like, I love them because they are so different
Yeah,
from Ahsoka and
yeah,
Anakin. Like, there's a whole episode where, like, the whole point is just how different they are and how different each Padawan is and how different each
hmm,
Jedi is. Um, the temple bombing, I think, um, using Barriss as the bomber was such a bad choice. It was just really, really an insensitive, really bad choice.
yeah,
Having said that, I am glad that they used it as the turning point for Ahsoka to say, "I'm done." Because if you don't believe in my innocence, and if my reputation and my character hasn't spoken to the fact that I would never do something like this, I'm done and I'm out and I'm leaving.
yeah.
Um,
As
so
well you
yeah,
should, because if nobody values you and nobody knows your character enough to know that you are not the type of person that rumors say you are,
mm.
they don't deserve you.
Well, and I
Walk
think
away.
also, I think the other sort of underlying point is that I don't necessarily think that she disagreed with Barris. I just don't think that her,
She would have
I
gone
don't
to that extreme.
correct.
Yeah.
Sherry, there's all sorts of really phenomenal. Pablo Hidalgo talked about it quite a bit, especially with the
Mhm.
Ghost Crew, but definitely in the Clone Wars. He talks about sort of where some of the inspiration for these characters came from, and Miralarans are oftentimes Muslim coded. So that's why if you look at the way like Barriss is dressed and you look at the way that she kind of interacts, she's a very Muslim coded character, and that's definitely a. I think I want to say it was Pablo Hidalgo who confirmed that, but yeah, it definitely is a full body cringe when you kind of see that she's the bomber and you're like, oh, I hate it. I don't like that at all.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, so okay, so they were willing to give Ahsoka's fate over to a civilian Republic court. And it's also a weird thing. And if you watched our Mon Mothma episode 2 weeks ago, we talked about how like that court was kind of the jury was kind of stacked because it was Mon Mothma was on that court and Padme was like her defender and Padme and Mon Mothma were friends. It was just a really messy time. Not not a great not a great time for Ahsoka, but she uses it to move forward. She uses it to move on. She uses it to kind of forge her own path, which, um, at the end of the day, knowing what we know about Ahsoka now was freaking great, and we're so glad she did that.
Yeah.
Just
Seriously.
such terrible circumstances, and yeah, I don't love watching those episodes. They kind of make me feel a certain kind of way that I don't love. So
Definitely not. Um Yeah, and on top of all of that, we also have her living in hiding, as we
Yes.
see little snippets of in Clone Wars season 7, her with the sisters, um, living underground, becoming a mechanic, working with Bail, deciding to work with Bail after Padme's funeral. Like, honestly, like that episode is coming up on the Jedi Archives this week with me and the guys. And it is probably the toughest episode that I have had to sit through, aside from, you
I don't
know,
know, the last 4 of season 7.
yeah, the last 4 of season
Oh,
7, exactly. Like, we
rough.
know how this isn't gonna end good, but yeah, it's just the fact that she sacrificed so much to be there, and Bill was like, "Well, if you're gonna do that, then maybe you can help us. If you were able to get here unnoticed, then you could do a lot more for the rebellion."
So this is where things kind of get sticky. And it wouldn't be a Daughters of the Galaxy if Jamie didn't talk about books. So um so we have this weird habit in Star Wars where like we'll produce media, we saying like I'm sitting here writing a book or Ashley sitting here writing a book. It's neither of us. Um
Yeah,
but there's this weird trend in like new media coming out and then being retconned in like less than 5 years. So the story that we know from Tales of the Jedi is exactly as Ashley told it, right? So Ahsoka shows up at Padme's funeral. Bail Organa's like, "Hey, wait a minute, how'd you get here? How'd you pull this off? Like, we could actually use some of these skills, and we could use you as an operative, and that's really amazing." However, the story is really different if you read the Ahsoka novel by E.K. Johnston. Because in that telling, which I actually prefer, and it's not meant to undermine the emotional impact of Ahsoka at Padme's funeral, which I think was really special,
yeah,
and I think it was really beautifully done, and I think it was, Ashley herself talks about how she was audibly crying when she was recording those lines. So I think it is a deeply emotional episode. However, if you read the E.K. Johnston novel, without getting too much into it, you get a really great origin story for her lightsabers and how she ends up with her white blades. And if you are, I don't want to spoil it too much because it is still a fairly new novel, and they're still calling it canon, even though it's been retconned. There's a lot, if you like the Force mysticism and you like sort of the mythology and the legend and all that fun stuff about Star Wars, there's a really really cool bit about what happens to kyber crystals that have gone to the dark side and how you can get them back to the light side. And that comes up in the Ahsoka novel. And it does also give the origin of her next big appearance, which of course is as Fulcrum, the operative who is helping to gel or organize the rebellion.
yeah.
The Ahsoka novel, I would agree. I think it is a must read. If you're even remotely an Ahsoka fan, it's definitely worth reading. It's not that long. It's a young adult novel. And if you're an audiobook fan, of which I have recently turned to that side, I am so freaking into audiobooks right now. Yeah, White Kybers. It's so good. Ashley Eckstein is actually the reader for the Ahsoka novel. So if you want to hear Ashley herself read the story about Ahsoka, there you go.
Download
So
it on
freaking great.
Audible.
Yeah, honestly, you could probably even get it from your library. So you don't even have to pay for it if you don't want to. But again, you should pay your writers.
Yeah.
So yeah, the important thing there is whether you tune to the Tales of the Jedi story or the Ahsoka novel, it's that Ahsoka and Bail are besties. And that's so cool for so many freaking reasons. I love that.
That is
Especially because I
great.
love Jimmy Smits, but here we are.
Jimmy Smits. Yeah, he's great.
Just wanted to talk forever as Bail Organa. Just talk. You're a great dude.
All
right.
He gets it though. He gets it though. It's like the quiet calm, and I love that he came back for Kenobi. And
yeah, right.
And
so
you
good.
see him with little Leia, and just how she's just pure mischief.
Here's where things get kind of sticky in the timeline, though. Thinking about like Kenobi and thinking about Bail is like Ahsoka's got some explaining to do for like where Sis has been for some of these really long stretches of time. We see her more, and we're going to start to see her more get involved with the New Republic, and we see her in the Mandalorian. We see her come back, of course, in Rebels, which I guess is our next step. But there's a long stretch of time where like she's not around, and there's no real explanation for that. So I guess that's a question for.
Do you honestly think we'll see it in Ahsoka, kind of like flashbacky a little bit? No, we got a very short period of time to go into that. So
yeah. So again, without getting too much into projecting for the new show, I would hope that we don't see it because we don't. There's too many branches of Ahsoka's story, and I feel like for this show to be successful, they have to pick one and stick to it. So, on that note, let's talk about the Ghost Crew.
Yeah.
Wait, can we do an episode of Friends of the Daughters of the Galaxy and have it be about Bail? I mean, all right.
I mean,
add it to the calendar. Let's go. Jamie talks about Jimmy Smits for 60 minutes. Quality TV. Quality watching right there.
Honestly, guys, like I'm a big fan of the Red Letter Media crew, and they did that Star Wars let's talk about Rogue One 3-minute skit, and it was like,
it's so good.
Jimmy Smits, Basil Oregano, that's Princess Leia's non-biological father. I could go on. I know that whole skit by heart, but yeah, definitely look up like Red Letter Media.
I can hear the voice, the Mr. Plinkett voice in my head.
Those guys are funny as hell, and like I love the Rogue One thing. I don't necessarily agree with him.
God!
Oh, T-A-T-S-T's. We could do that all day. But yeah, make sure you go on YouTube and look them up. They're hilarious, and as you can tell by our goofy ass expressions right now. But yeah,
I made them laugh a ringtone once.
I'm jealous. I need that Rich Evans laugh as my ringtone. But anyway, we're gonna get back into Ahsoka.
Oh my god, the Ghost Crew.
The Ghost Crew. So we have Ahsoka working as Fulcrum. We don't know it's Fulcrum, but we kind of do because it kind of sounds like Ashley. That robo voice and the hood. But yeah, Sabine is really upset that she is not in the loop with knowing who Fulcrum is, and it's a whole level of trust between Sabine and Hera to keep Fulcrum a secret and protect the mission rather than the individuality of the crew. But it gets to a point where they do find out, and they finally get to meet Fulcrum, and Ahsoka appears in Rebels.
Surprise, surprise!
Ahsoka lives! Exclamation point! Not question mark. Thank you, Dave Filoni, for showing up at Celebration.
Fancy new outfit and everything.
Yes, and I love that outfit. That is probably my favorite of the Ahsoka outfits.
You mean it's not the tube top that she wore when she was 14?
Oh hell no, Lucas! You need to fix your
costume
design. Get your costume design right. Make sure that the girls are represented in proper ways for their ages.
So stupid. Just
gets
me every time. So we see her come back as Fulcrum, and what I love so much about the role of Fulcrum is that when you watch Rebels, you're like, oh, it's one person. Oh, it's two people. And then you watch Rogue One and you're like, oh, it's three people. And I definitely want to go to the party that is hosted by Cassian Andor and Alexander Callis and Ahsoka Tano, because that's just a lot of self-loathing in one room.
And that's like a prerequisite on the job resume, a job description. It's like must have incredible amounts of self-loathing, be able to go off the rails, and be a complete loner as needed.
Yeah, but it's such a great concept, and especially in this timeline, sexy Callus. I mean, you're not wrong. It's the sideburns, girl. Especially in this timeline when it's so dangerous to be an operative, and to have people in the Senate like Mon Mothma and like Bail Organa, and then to have these rebel cells come together, and then to have that person in the middle, is pretty stupendous, and obviously is a huge asset to anything happening with this rebellion. So I'll be very curious to see if that gets explored. Oh, it'll have to get explored more with Cassian's story, because I want to hear more about Cassian as Fulcrum.
Yeah.
Because I think that's again, it's just such a unique thing and such a cool thing. Rebels is a weird and interesting timeline for Ahsoka, right? So she acts as Fulcrum, but she also kind of has some emotional reckoning and some personal reckoning to do in Rebels.
Yeah. It was kind of, and I don't want to say a relief, but it was like, okay, well, she knows what happened to Anakin now, and it's just her closing that chapter of her life. But of course, like, you know, she's like, a lot of guilt if I had never walked away from the temple, if I had stayed with him, if I hadn't been so upset with him like I was in season 7 of the Clone Wars before all hell broke loose. Would he really have gone that dark? Would I have been able to save him? And I think she, like Obi-Wan in his series, learns that it was not up to her to save him. He was always destined for the dark side. It is someone with a much bigger power in his life. It's up to them to save him. So, and we know that's Luke.
And we know that's Luke. Yeah, so Rebels, I mean, I will say, I think one of the most impactful moments is that battle on Malachor, right? Because I mean, it's such an interesting thing to see, like, a Padawan fight a master like that.
Oh yeah.
But then, like, the helmet cracking and like, oh man, there's a lot going on there. I was actually really disappointed that they did that again in Kenobi, because I was like, Rebels definitely did it better, but that was me.
Emotional
So
impacts.
yes, we're like,
Although that is a very emotional scene. I'm not taking that away.
I
love that
it was
scene.
great, but I was like, oh, we gotta do the helmet crack again. Like, you couldn't have done something different for Obi-Wan.
Like, knock the helmet off completely.
Yeah. Just lop a hand off or something. I don't know. Just
make
just
it the robot hand, you know.
Yeah.
It's already been gone once. It's fine. Did enough droids to fix it. Oh my god, my nose is itchy. Anyway, sorry guys.
Ahsoka dies again, or dies.
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 Nobody. We don't know. We haven't seen it. Yeah.
We don't know. We see this world between worlds concept come back in, which she does a lot. I mean, she dies a lot. It's a good thing she's Ahsoka, I guess. I will tell you, the world between world stuff, speaking candidly, and if anybody has talked to me about Ahsoka, this is where I start to have a little bit of a falling off point with Ahsoka, because up until the world between worlds, I was like, oh my god, what an incredible and impactful way for her to, like, actually die. The time travel thing is such a sticky thing, and I feel that way.
But then we see her walk through that portal, and we don't know if it's just like an allegory for, like, walking through the gates of heaven or the afterlife, whatever. And then we see that's her really going out of the temple. So it's strange.
It's just, I had a harder time with that, I guess. You know, I think there's something to be said for giving a character an emotional and an impactful and a meaningful death. And time travel across any franchise is such a sticky thing, because, again, we do it for some characters, but not for others. We need more information here. Like, what are the rules around this thing? I really hope that we will keep the world between worlds kind of contained to Rebels. I don't know that I want to see it again. A lot of imagery kind of alludes to that not being the case, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Some people are saying it's not coming in Ahsoka.
Not for us to say, but I think Dave's smart enough to use it where he needs to use it, if he chooses to use it at all. Trust in the Force.
We'll see.
Hey.
Anyway, Mando. Before I go on a rant, an angry girl rant, let's talk about Corvus.
Yeah.
Actually, we should probably wrap up Rebels, huh?
Yeah.
And talk about how she and Sabine are gonna go find Ezra. We're gonna go get the boy.
So she shows back up in the epilogue in Star Wars Rebels, the final episode of the final season, and obviously some time has passed. Sabine is sporting new armor, new shorter hair, new hair color, and then she turns around and there is Ahsoka the White, looking like all Gandalf-y, coming to get Sabine to go find Ezra.
The Gandalf era.
Yeah. Ahsoka the White.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that's, we'll see.
Yeah.
The timeline again gets kind of interesting here. So, it's like 5 years between. Wait, is my brain right? Yeah, it's like 5 years, right, between Sabine and Ahsoka going off to find Ezra, but then Corvus. So showing back up in Mandalorian, is that right? Brain, do the thing.
Yes,
make the math.
that
Yeah,
is
it's 5
right.
years. So yeah, so she's off hunting Thrawn. She's looking for Thrawn, presumably to go find Ezra, who is, you know, probably playing cards with Thrawn. I don't know what they're doing. They're out in wild space,
It's a long
fishing for
time to
Purgle or
be
something. Yeah,
surfing Purgles in the hyperspace lanes.
it's a long time. Which again is one of my many sticking points with this timeline.
Yeah.
Just many sticking points. Listen, I'm trying so hard to be good right now, but like I've got a million rants happening in my head.
I know.
I just have so many feelings and so many aggressive rants, and I know we're
All I
running short
can
for time.
say
So
is that I hope that it gives you peace. At least 90% peace. It may not be perfect, but I'm hoping for at least 90% of peace for you.
And if it doesn't, I mean,
you're allowed to have your opinion.
Stupid Jedi to go follow. It'll be fine.
We embrace all points of view, except for those with hatred. But yeah.
I think at the end of the day, it's like I just want these characters to have the best possible story that they can have. And
exactly.
I love them so much,
That's
and I just
all
want them
we
to have
can
a good
hope
story.
For.
As if, oh my god, no, it's not 5 years, sis. My math is really wrong. So it's
wait, I'm looking at your guideline here.
It's 13 years.
14. Okay, yeah, it is 13 years.
I just like looked at my timeline. I'm like, that's not right at all. It's bonkers. Anyway, the Star Wars time is fake and stupid, and honestly, like I have like a timeline written out in my journal of like where things are because I'm a very visual person.
Yep.
And that brings us to you know, the beginning of this show that is happening. Yes, season 3 of The Mandalorian is happening at the same time as Ahsoka, which is actually literally a note that I have in here because I copied and pasted some stuff from my brain is just not made for numbers. If you watched our Hera show, you know that because I literally showed like this is how old she is in the Bad Batch, and this is how old she is in season 1 of Rebels, and this is how old she'll be in Ahsoka, and it's a whole thing. Yeah, so that brings us up to the beginning of this series that airs next Wednesday. Again, you know, I don't know that I'm gonna speculate. We have a show coming up. Ashley, it's next Tuesday, is that right?
Yeah, so we're doing our massive host get together here on the VCN next Tuesday night at 9 p.m. where we'll discuss Ahsoka on Ahsoka Eve and just kind of give our thoughts and our theories and see where it goes and get psyched.
Yeah,
for lack of a better term, I'm gonna be pretty stoked. I'll admit it. Fight the Empire. Let's do it.
Yeah, it'll be.
Baby
needs a new Mando helmet.
Yeah, get one for Ezra, pinned up real pretty.
Wait, which baby? Who needs a new Mando helmet? I don't know. We can all just wear our helmets, I guess.
Grogu
so yeah, it'll
be
be
Mando helmet. Get one for Grogu. Make it pretty.
I mean, I just want to see him in his little Beskar waddling around because he can't walk.
Just give him the heaviest freaking armor ever.
So angry.
Make him.
So
yeah.
So that'll be coming up next Tuesday. If you care to join us, which we hope you will. I think at the end of the day, you know, if we think about Ahsoka and we think about how far she's come, I think we have to remember, I mean, this was such a gamble of a character in so many ways, right?
Yeah.
Because you're taking characters that have already existed in, you know, in some cases, movies from the 70s and then again in the early 2000s, and you're almost giving them like an enhanced story by adding a new character to them in the, you know, the 2000s. So
and
she was definitely a gamble.
Yeah, as we've seen, fanboys don't take too kindly to messing with the formula, and I think there was a lot of unnecessary hate for it.
There was, and you know, I think at the end of the day, when I think about a character like Ahsoka, I think it's with a lot of gratitude for the fact that we had the Clone Wars gave us such incredible female representation. With characters like Padme, of course, because we got that incredible Padme backstory throughout the series as well. And we started to see other female Jedi be more than just sort of their Order 66 moment with Shaak Ti and with Aya and with Luminara and Barriss. And, you know, but the one that was always at the forefront of that, at least insofar as the Jedi were concerned, was Ahsoka. So I do think that she was definitely the beginning, or at the very least, the face of a revolution for women in Star Wars, and getting more of that content and really truly valuable stories. So I was, I think about Ahsoka with a lot of gratitude. And even if I have some questions and some concerns and some hesitations about where the story has gone, ultimately I do think about her with the gratitude that I had her to look to as an inspirational character, and now my 2-year-old has to look to as, an inspirational, strong character in Star Wars. So we love that.
And I love the messages that both Ashley and Rosario have brought to the character. There's a sort of, you don't fight because you can fight. You fight because you care about what you're fighting for. And it is just easier to walk away than compromise yourself. And there's just so many amazing lessons that this character has taught the kids that have grown up in the last 15 years with the Clone Wars, with Rebels, and now with this interpretation of Ahsoka. I think it's exciting, and I really can't wait to see Rosario come into her own as Ahsoka and bring some heart and some life to the big screen, and to the big screen, but to the live action
small big screen.
Yeah, depending on which TV you're watching it on in your house.
Well, again, if we stick to, Lucasfilm has had a really tough time recently with like sticking to timelines and projections and things like that. But if the stories are true, we will see her on the big screen with this culmination story, from the sound of it, with this Mandoverse stuff. But
it's exciting.
We'll see. So that's kind of our roundup of Ahsoka Tano for our Daughters of the Galaxy episode. Obviously, this is a character with so much happening at any given time that we could probably go on for another hour, but we committed an hour-long show to you, so that's what we're going to do. And that's not to say, as we think about this show, we've been talking about, potentially revisiting, or going back and even doing like rewatches perhaps of certain female-centric episodes of things. So it's not to say that this will be our only time we talk about Ahsoka, but at the very least, consider it a primer as we get ready for next week of Ahsoka Tano. And see, I made it a whole show without screaming about Ahsoka. So we do have a couple of announcements.
You're doing good, Jamie. You're doing good.
So tense all the time. We do have a couple of announcements just to wrap things up. As we talked about, next Tuesday will be our sort of last big hurrah before the show with all of your favorite VCN hosts. So come vibe with us there.
So before you get up at midnight, or in my case, in
3
a.m., which I will. I swear to God, I don't care if I'm working at the cafe at 5. That stuff's happening. But
we'll see how I do.
Okay. I'll just be texting you. Like I told Mark, I'll be texting you. Stay off the internet. So, yeah, we got that on Tuesday night. And
I guess we probably should have gone in order, right? Because it's Wednesday now. What's going on tomorrow? Do we have a show tomorrow?
Yes. So the boys will be watching.
What are we watching?
No. Sorry, it's here. I swear. I save everything, and then I'm just like, there we go. Oh my God, Ahsoka, you're so cute, but you're in my way. Sorry, Virtual Cantina Network watch along. So that week we are going for boop boop boop. So we will have Mandalorian Season 2, Chapter 13, and Book of Boba Fett Season 1, Chapter 6. Those are the Ahsoka-centric episodes. We're going to be watching those with the guys. Make sure you tune in on Thursday night and catch that. The Jedi Archives will be Sunday, August 20th at 11 a.m. Eastern. It's me with the guys. We're going to be watching the Resolve episode of Tales of the Jedi on the Jedi Archives. It's, as I said, it's an emotional episode. It's where we see Ahsoka become Fulcrum, and it was really fun to get to discuss this with the guys and see what they thought about it.
Yeah, and then that brings us into next week's programming. So so that's a lot to watch. So hopefully you'll stick with us. As a friendly reminder, we do have merch. Oh, Rebels Revisited on Monday. Yes. Oh my God, we didn't even talk about that. What are you watching on Monday?
Rebels Revisited on Monday. we're just kind of
putting you on the spot.
Yeah, we're just gonna kind of give our let's see, fling spaghetti at the wall and see if any of our theories stick episode.
My favorite.
Which you know how great we are with those. Like especially like we've had 1,000. Like see if Barris Offee shows up and where we go from there in Ahsoka, what we think's gonna happen. And Tuesday night is the host of Palooza and getting ready for Ahsoka Eve and
okay, now we'll talk about merch. So
but now we're going to talk about merch
because there's a ribbon going on down there that's like talk about it.
Really sweet shirts, yeah.
We do. So Daughters of the Galaxy. For those of you who don't know, we have some sick T-shirts, some really super cool T-shirts, which are great, and you should get them because you're gonna look cool like us. Why not? We do also have VCN T-shirts, both patriotic, standard, a little of everything. So
big gay explosions.
Big gay explosions. We do, yeah. The Pride ones are still up, so you can get ready for next year, or you could just be gay all the time, and we love that for you.
Yeah.
So many rainbows.
Yes,
we approve. What else didn't I talk about? I feel like there was other things that I forgot to mention. Our next episode. Oh God, do we even know? It's Barris and Luminara.
Yeah, I think that's what we were hoping to get into. After that, just kind of see where that would go.
There she is. Sabine wearing our T-shirt.
Yes, represent. Sick. I love that logo and the "What
Big
Would Hera Do" one. Like those are my favorites.
The I Am No Jedi may or may not still be available. It got flagged, so we'll see. But the others are definitely there. Yeah, so lots of fun things coming up. Like I said, we are an every 2 weeks show, so we won't see you next Wednesday. You'll all be watching Ahsoka anyway, so that's fine. I don't blame you. And then we'll be back the week after Ahsoka. And as of right now, it's Barris and Luminara. Ask us in a week, and it may be something different. We do have our long list of characters that we are hoping to get through. If you would love to see characters added to that list, now's when the chat usually goes crazy because everyone's like, do Dr. Aphra. We know.
We love her. Trust me,
do.
She's on our
Aphra's
list.
Like
we got
you.
you.
The one that everybody wants.
We got you.
I am still hoping to talk about Avar Chris.
Yes, please.
We need to be sedated for that one.
I gotta read some damn books.
If you think I talk fast now, get ready for me to talk about my wife, Avar Chris.
Yeah. It's gonna be great.
Anyway, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on Daughters of the Galaxy. We hope you're excited.
So much fun, and I'm so glad to be back.
Yeah, welcome back.
Yeah,
good timing.
Good timing. So,
all right, friends.
We'll see you in 2 weeks.
May the Force be with you.
Bye.